Good evening. Welcome to the Canadian Orthodox Monastery of All Saints of North America. I have a few questions I'm going to respond to this evening, and one of those has to do with the last broadcast we did on the memorial services. Somebody had read the patristic references I'd given them. They give really an official, as close as an official definition of why we have those services as one can find. And they're actually canonical works, as opposed to, say, the false homily of St. Macarius of Egypt and some of the other pseudo-epigraphica. Pseudo-epigraphica simply meaning really fake writings. The question about the 40-day service, and one writer was actually quite correct. The 40-day memorial service is neither of a Christian or a Hebrew origin. We read in Genesis 50:2 through 3, Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed him. And then, and 40 days were fulfilled for him, for so are fulfilled the days for those who are embalmed in Egypt. Now, 40 days were fulfilled for Moses too, we're told, according to the custom of the Egyptians. So the 40-day service actually had to do with the embalming process and how long it took to embalm a body. I think for pharaohs it was 70 days. Also, some of the mythology we get about the 3rd and 9th days come from pagan Egypt as well, because it was held when the embalming process started. Then until the main internal organs were taken out and sealed in the canopic jars, the soul had to hover above the body. Only I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that when the heart was taken out and sealed, then the soul was free to go wandering somewhere else. It would depart from around where it used to wander. And then, of course, the heart, that is the soul, would be weighed in the through the toll gates. In Egypt, there were 42 toll gates that the heart had to go through, the soul had to go through, to be judged for various moral questions, like did you steal anything from the temple or something like that. And so that's where we get a lot of this imagery from that really is not orthodox and really corrupts the orthodox teaching. Now, going on from that though, I have a few, I think, kind of interesting questions too, some of which we touched on a little bit before. Somebody asked me, do you follow a strict monastic typicon such as Mount Athos in the monastery? No, we don't, as a matter of fact. We don't even pretend to. The monastery has a great outreach and a lot of missionary work. Sometimes I go to some small town in the north of British Columbia or central or up in the Rocky Mountains, and we'll serve a funeral, a crowning, or a baptism. And if people really want an Orthodox service, we feel we're obliged to do it. And of course, as many of you know, I travel a great deal on speaking engagements. And I only just returned from Istanbul, and I'll be going to New York City on the 26th for a conference. I'll be visiting a number of places, but the conference in New York City takes place on the 5th and 6th. But in the meantime, I'll be in several other places. So that consumes an enormous amount of time and energy, so we have prayer rule in ourselves, and we fulfill those prayer rules. I think all of us fulfill them fully. But the ordinary, say, Athonite typicon, we don't. We don't even have the manpower for it. We have done a great deal of social work and caregiving and that sort of things. So we don't fulfill a rigid or complete, or by any means, anywhere close to a full monastic typicon. We simply don't. And there's no reason for us to pretend that we do. And here's an interesting question, and I'm going to have to make a little confession on this one. This is, in reading the the Orthodox discussion groups and websites, I've made a list of 5 different places you were supposed to have been born in. Can you tell us where you were actually born? You know, I'm not going to answer it right now, but I have to confess that sometimes I've added to the confusion on purpose, because when people started being quite malicious and vicious over theological points and things like that, one of the things they started was speculating about, you know, was I a Jew? Some people said I was Jewish, and I'm only a quarter Jewish, as a matter of fact. Ashkenaz, not real Jew. Anyway, where were you born? Remind me in 6 months, and I'll clarify it and tell you where I was actually born. Because when I saw this speculation, malicious speculation, I thought, well, if these people want to chew on their toenails, I'll throw out a little bit for them as well. So I named a couple of places and let that sort of slip into the system, just to see what people would do with it. And I did that quite intentionally, actually. So I don't mind telling you where I was born, but I'm going to do it right now. If people are busy chewing on their toenails, as I say, about these things, especially on these sort of open sewers like the Indiana list and that sort of thing. And, you know, the other thing that strikes me, though, I haven't really gone to very many of those sites, but I've done a lot of traveling and a lot of speaking in Eastern Europe, third world countries, places in the United States and Canada, where I've also seen the third world, in our own country, in Canada. And I wonder what possesses, and maybe possesses is the right word, people to exhaust so much time on malice, on envy, on slander, on innuendo, on attacks. Not just on me. I mean, there are a lot of people who have suffered from these. Don't people have anything better to do with their time? Don't they notice the very severe and serious things that are taking place in the world around us, which need to be responded to and addressed? I know some Orthodox Christians who are opposed to any kind of outreach or social work on the part of the church, and yet, even on Mount Athos, the medical profession and monks who are doctors have gone off the holy mountain, and some of their relative, as they would say, sister monasteries, I prefer relative monasteries, have actually participated in things like mass cancer screening and vaccinations and things like this. So they've been quite involved. In Romania, you find a magnificent involvement, and in Russia as well, in taking care of orphans and people who have psychiatric illnesses, street people. Some nuns have actually gone back to school and become medical doctors and have little clinics in their monasteries to serve people. What about you people, and I'm going to address directly, what about you people who spend so much idle time in nasty-minded malice, in evil, in genuine evil on these websites and discussion groups? You people are genuinely evil. And so many things that you could be doing that would be useful, that would help people, that would help heal people, that would help nourish people, that would help to reach out to people who are desperate and in need, that would open the gospel to people. But you have no time for that. You have only time to sit around and stew in your own malice and spew out all this wickedness and evil that you do. Think about it with prayer for a little while and see if you can't do a little better.